3, 2, 1. Recording started.
Thank you, Peter. This is Ray Weldy, Chairman of the Lower Southampton Township Board of Supervisors. Welcome to the public meeting of the Lower Southampton Township Board of Supervisors for Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 at 7:38 p.m. 5 supervisors are all present. This meeting is being held virtually via teleconference. It was advertised as such. Also present is Township Manager Joe Galdo. If we could begin the meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The board held a public work session that was advertised and began at 6:30 p.m. During the work session, the board held several updates. Heard several updates. The first was from the township manager. We were updated on agenda items number 2, 3, and 4. We'll get into them when they come up. We then received an update from the Parks and Recreation Director on the summer camp openings, the summer camp registrations, and the pool opening, the Dolphin Club, which is tentatively scheduled for July 10th to August 29th. We also heard an update, and will come up tonight in the manager's report about a payment to our pool contractor for maintenance and operation of the pools. We then received an update from our Human Resources Director on 2 revisions to the employee handbook. We received an update from the Director of Public Works on the James D. Morrissey paving payment that was left over from the 2020 paving contract, an update from the Chief of Police on traffic accidents, traffic studies, and a proposed parking ordinance, which will come up in the manager's report tonight. And then finally, we heard an update from Ms. Kaplan regarding trash complaints from Ms. Scarrow, an update, and that will also come up in the manager's report tonight. First up on tonight's agenda would be public comment. The public was invited to send any comment that they had via email into Township Administration. Mr. Galdo or Ms. Flynn, if there's any comment, it could be right in now.
Board Chair, there was, I believe, 3, possibly 4. I'm going through them right now for you. One is from Richard Fitzpatrick, 26 West Myrtle Avenue. Board of Supervisors, thank you for taking the time during the last supervisor meeting to discuss my concerns regarding the use of Myrtle Avenue as a cut-through between Bridgetown Pike and Buck Road. To reiterate my concern about the traffic, yesterday I was flipped off by a driver as they sped past my house while I motioned for them to slow down because my kids were riding bikes in the driveway. The perceived and actual speed of the car far exceeded the 25-mile-an-hour limit. So I welcome a traffic study by the police department to get everyone on the same page about this problem. I understand speed bumps were tried with little to no success. A one-way is another option. However, that would not address the speed at which the cars are driving. May I present an idea that would resolve both the speed and volume that I did not hear mentioned, making Myrtle Avenue a dead-end street, and possibly Herschel or Bertha, etc. Thank you again for taking the time to discuss this problem we are having. Okay. Second one is from Donna Moran Griff. I'm trying to see an address over here. I don't believe I see an address, but on Saturday, May 8th, 2021, around 7 p.m., I went to Acme only to find about 40 cars on the Staples side of the parking lot. I drove up to one of the groups to ask what was happening, was told they were just chilling and talking. I called 911 and told the dispatcher it wasn't an emergency, but I was requesting police presence to drive through the parking lot, making the groups know we watch out for our community. I told the dispatcher they weren't playing loud music, just the sound of their cars. I went into Acme and eventually felt vibration that was similar to a high bass level. I went out and experienced 3 different genres of loud music playing with subwoofers and bass extremely high or up high. I called 911 non-emergency a second time for police presence. I was following 4 of the participating cars when I left the parking lot on at the Bustleton Pike exit. Each of the cars made a left going to Bustleton, and most likely going back to the city. Our township is still going through a change of reputation from front-page news of past corruption. I don't wish to see car rallies to become the new front page. I believe this is not a positive image to improve our township. Okay, next one. It's Rocco Filato, 2419 Brownsville Road in Langhorne. Good evening, everyone. He attached an image, and we could give this to the board. Oh, there it goes. Pete got it up. Good. I'm attaching an image of a speed pillow I saw on Greeley Avenue in Ivyland recently. Last meeting, there were comments about speeding issues along Myrtle and possible suggestions to address them. It's a little tough to see in the photo, but it's basically a wider, smoother speed bump located within the white arrows. It does not force you to slow down, but it does force you to slow down, but does not have the sharp jolt associated with standard speed bumps. Secondly, recently Jerry Clabbers spoke to the board about property located off Buck Road behind Symphony Manor. During his presentation to the Planning Commission several years ago, I asked Mr. Clabbers if he would be willing to allow a volunteer group to visit his property and remove some wood or items that may be present in the barn on the property. My suggestion was these items could be presented to the Playwicki Farm since these 2 properties were built around the same time. At the time, he was very enthusiastic about the suggestion. I had spoken to several farm board members and the former Park and Rec director who did seem interested. If Mr. Clabbers appears before the Planning Commission this year, I will be asking him again. Thanks for your time. And the last one, I think, hold on. Thank you, Peter. And the last one is Hank Booth, 8 Spring Meadow Road, Feasterville, PA. Mr. Chairman, the 2020 Supervisors earnings report shows that 2 supervisors, Ms. Cummings and Mr. Kutsaratis, both received their proper allowances. However, Mr. Weldy, Mr. Shannon, and Ms. Kaplan all received substantially lower wages for the same period. Can each supervisor shed some light as to why? That's all for tonight's public comments.
Thank you, Joe. I believe Mr. Fitzpatrick's complaint and Mr. Filato's complaint, at least about the speed bumps, are somewhat related, and the police department chief criminal has agreed to conduct a traffic study there and maybe recommend some traffic calming devices. As far as I think Miss Griff's complaint, the police were also called to the Acme. As far as Mr. Booth's complaint, I can't speak for the other supervisors, but I know my wages were lower because of forfeiting May through December 2020's wages, supervisors' wages anyway, because of the township was in a severe budget crunch due to decreased revenues from COVID-19. I don't know if any other supervisors want to speak to that, but that's my reason.
I would like to speak to that. I as well forfeited my wages from May to December of last year due to the budget crunch that we were experiencing due to the pandemic.
This is Ed Shannon. I did the same.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, could I jump in real quick too?
Yes, sir.
In regards to Mr. Filato, when he had spoke about Mr. Glabber, not that long ago too, I had spoken to Mr. Glabber about also possibly being interested in donating some of the material there, and he did seem like he was still on board with that. So, you know, at some point, I do think that might be a beneficial thing for the township to maybe look at, you know, receiving some of this material if the Farm Foundation feels that they could use it. But he did seem like he was still, you know, okay with it. So I thought that was pretty nice of him.
Okay, I'll actually shoot an email back to Mr. Filato. His email address is on here, so I could I can make sure he mentions it, and then we can inquire about what type of items he's talking about.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Glabber had said that there was a barn on the property, and I know we have a barn there over at the farm. I don't know if any of the barn boards could be used, but you know that might be one thing right off the bat. And
Sure.
I believe the
I've seen
house.
actual people put them on their walls in their house too, as
Yeah.
you know, as remembrances to years of past. People that have owned farms
And
have done that on numerous. You see them on shows too.
Yeah, they do a lot with that, and also I believe there's a historic home on the property too. From what I understand, it's been vandalized, but there maybe there's something there too that might be useful for the farm.
Okay.
The chief is on
Sure.
here. What was like the final outcome of the whole 40 cars at the Acme, and if Ted's still on here, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything
So-
that you see this as a continuing type of occurrence or one-time occurrence?
So it's like a pop-up thing on Facebook.
Oh,
These car clubs. We are in correspondence with the attorney for the shopping center to get a letter for that they're not welcome there. We can't really chase them out of there because it's private property.
Right.
So we're working on it, and I think we have an arrest pending for something happened there this weekend. We're looking for a guy, so we're actively working on that situation.
have you seen that happen in any other locations and any other large parking lots in the township?
Every once in a while, it'll be the bowling alley, or it might be some of the locations in Bensdale, Far Down Street Road. It happens sometimes,
Okay.
but it's going to be a problem in Acme. So, like I said, we're trying to get some kind of correspondence from their attorney so we can kick them out. We're working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Probably be proactive, Valero Shopping Center parking lot as well, because when that does happen, just a suggestion, if it does happen, because it is private property, that could be something that could be proactive. You know what I mean? Contacting the owner of that area as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's I'm not sure why they're leaving Northeast Philadelphia to come up here. It doesn't really logic defies this, but we're keeping an eye on it.
Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
Joe, that's it for the public comment?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Item 1 on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda item 1A is the approval of the minutes for April 28th, 2021. 1B, approval of accounts payable, May 12th, 2021. In the accounts payable for May 12th, 2021, I do see there's a payment to Genova Burns in the amount of $5,000 and change, but it indicates that payment is for some certain police department things and some other personnel issues that had to deal with Parks and Recreation, and that was it. So I won't make any comment as to have that severed. Item 1C is the approval of certain reoccurring monthly bills, May 12th, 2021. 1D, approval of professional fee escrow release in the amount of $300 for Profco Pine Goodnett project withdrawn on Bristol Road. Item 1E, approval of professional fee escrow release in the amount of $300 for All Pro Auto Service variants. We would need a motion then to pass the consent agenda. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Shannon has made the motion. A second?
I'll second it, Ray.
Seconded by Mr. Kutsaratus. Thank you. As we do in the virtual meetings, we'll do a roll call vote in alphabetical order. Ms. Cummings?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Ray Weldy? I'll vote yes. The consent agenda passes with a vote of 5-0. Item 2 on the agenda, the discussion of the 2 subject updates to the Township Employee Handbook has been removed. That discussion was handled during the work session and is going to be further reviewed by the Human Resources Director and then report back to us at the next Township meeting work session on May 26th. So again, item 2 has been removed as it was handled in the work session. Item 3 would be consider approval of realty transfer tax refund to Gregory Bertino. I'll defer to Mr. Dillon for a summary of that. Frank?
Yes, Mr. Berdino asked the state for a refund. It was approved by the state. It was approved by the bankruptcy. There was an improper transfer. And therefore, it was determined that he was entitled to the refund. There was a decision by the Department of Revenue on January 7th, 2021, indicating that they were entitled to the refund. And but the Revenue Department does not have the authority to force Lower Southampton to issue the refund. So they have to present the request to the municipality. All the information that we've been able to gather indicates that the payment was made, the payment was received. They've petitioned for the refund. It was approved. And for that reason, we're recommending adoption of the motion to refund it to Mr. Bertino.
Frank, what would the amount, if in the motion, what would the amount have to be to make that motion?
Hold on, I had it.
Okay.
I think it's. $1,505.68.
Thank you. And that's the entire refund then that we would be authorizing?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, and Frank, you recommend making this refund?
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks for the summary. So for item 3, we would need a motion to refund $1,505.68 in realty tax, transfer tax, I'm sorry, to Gregory Bertino. Would anyone like to make that motion?
So moved, Ray.
Thank you. Was that Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Second by Ms. Kaplan. Ms. Cummings, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Ray Weldy, I vote yes. The motion to approve the realty transfer tax refund to Gregory Bertino in the amount of $1,505.68 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Item 1.4 would be consider approval of another realty transfer tax refund, this one to MBA Abstract. And Mr. Dillon, I'll defer to you again for a summary on that and your recommendation.
Yes, on this one, the Abstract Company has appealed to the state just like Mr. Bertino did. There hasn't been a ruling by the state. And when I look at everything, it's not on the settlement sheet. I just think we should wait until the state rules. If the state rules that it should be refunded, we then follow the direction of the state. But I would defer this until there's a ruling by the state would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Does anyone from the board have, does anyone, I don't know, want to go forth with the deferment?
I think we go with Frank's recommendation.
Right. There's no opposition to the deferment?
No.
Okay. Okay. Frank, I think the board feels comfortable with deferring this until, you get a more definitive ruling from the Department of Revenue.
Great. I don't think you need a motion because the motion would be to authorize the refund. And so if there's no motion, we can move on to the next item.
Okay. Thank you. Item 4 is then deferred until we get a more definitive ruling from the Board of Revenue. Item 5 would be approval of final payment to J.D. Marcy for the 2020 paving program. This came up at a previous meeting, and we received a summary from Mr. McDonald. So, Mr. McDonald, if you could advise us of an update on the most recent recommendation.
Yeah, how you doing? We owe. Let me get we still owe, let me get my figure straight here. We still owe them for JDM contractors for 637 tons of leveling wearing course they put down on the streets for the 2020 paving program. So that comes out to $35,412.04. So.
Is it 35 or 37, Mark?
Well, I said that earlier in the work session. I have both things, but 35 is the last number I had.
Okay, the letter I have from
Letter
Code
from-
Larry
letter from
Young says 37, and then I haven't, let me check the email in the file.
Yeah, Tri-State's April 30th, 2021 from Larry Young says 37,412.
Yeah.
And then there was another one for 35.
I think I put 35 in an email. It was probably my typo. And I did add it up, and it was the 27 and 9, and it came to the 37 figure. That 35 was my typo. And that represents, the recommendation was 37,412.04. The bills submitted were for 27,912 and 18,982.08, which equals 46,894.08. There was a negotiated resolution by Cody Spadacino and Mark, and that was to split the last item of 18,982 to 08 to 9,491.04, which is a total of 37,412.04.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank. And Mark, you're satisfied with that payment and the work that we received in return for that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If the board doesn't have any further questions, then we would need a motion to approve final payment to James D. Marcy for the 2020 paving program in the amount of $37,412.04. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Made by Mr. Shannon. Thank you. Second?
I'll second that, Ray. Susan?
Seconded. Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Cummings. Ms. Cummings, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yep.
Thank you. Ray Weldy, I vote yes. So the motion to make the final payment to Morrissey passes with a vote of 5-0. Next up is the manager's report. Mr. Galdo?
Sure. Thank you, Board Chair. Pete, if you could put that up. Couple items for tonight's meeting. The JP Mascaro and Sons, as you know, the township is fielding a fair amount of complaints from the residents, whether it's just regular refuse, recycling, and yard waste. So we're getting kind of bombarded here at the township with regards to the performance coming out of Mascaro. Board member Deb Kaplan attended a recent meeting. I was unable to attend. She attended it with representatives from Northampton Township and Upper Southampton Township. Ms. Kaplan, would you want to report back to the whole of the board on that?
Certainly. We had a very productive meeting, and it's actually called the SWIPS flag, and what that stands for is Southwest Bucks Solid Waste Committee. And what we decided, all three townships have decided that we are going to the penalty provision stated in the Mascaro contract, and a letter will be going out that has been constructed by an attorney, and Frank can speak on the letter. And each township will get the same letter, and Mascaro will be notified on our.
So John Tarenti from my office is preparing the letter. He represents Upper Southampton Township, and so the letter will be prepared, and it's basically the municipalities feel, in light of all the complaints, that the penalty provisions of the contract need to be enforced, and that should be done immediately. And so I'm asking the board for authorization, to vote for authorization for a letter to be sent to Mascaro advising him, and I intend to have that sent out before the next meeting.
Thank you, Frank. We would then need a motion authorizing our solicitor to send a letter as his recommendation to Mascaro, advising them of Lower Southampton's intent to enforce the penalty section of the contract. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll
Can I-
make that
Can
motion.
can I ask Frank for a comment first?
Absolutely. Well,
Frank, what time frame are they going to be given some time to fix it?
It's,
Is that already-
well,
Is it way beyond that at this point?
Deb, is it June 1st or May 31st? I forget the implementation date.
After May 31st.
After May 31st. So the problem is, the citizens and the supervisors are dissatisfied. There's been lots of notice. There's been lots of warnings. There's been lots of information that's been shared. And at this point, I think the feeling is that something has to be done.
No,
It's way past the fix it or get out.
yeah, it's way past that, Ed, way past that. We've been dealing with these issues. I remember a few years back, I think you and Ray had gone to a meeting where one of you guys had said that the owner of the waste company pounded his hand on the table and said that they're going to start taking care of this and they're going to deal with it. And you know what? It hasn't happened. It's time.
So the SWIP's Right Committee, that's why we met, and that's a decision that we made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
thank you.
For that
Go ahead,
motion,
Deb.
could you state that motion, Ray?
Sure. My motion was for the Board of Supervisors to authorize the solicitor to draft a letter to JP Mascaro, informing them of our intent to enforce the penalty section of our contract with Mascaro effective June 1st, 2021. So I'll make that motion myself. Okay, the
Yeah.
motion's on the floor.
I was gonna make the motion, so,
You
Okay.
seconded, Deb. You were there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll second that. I was gonna make the motion. I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been seconded. Thank you. Ms. Kaplan, Ms. Cummings, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Ray Weldy, I vote yes. So that motion to authorize our solicitor to draft that letter passes with a vote of 5-0. Joe, I'll go back to you.
Okay. The other item was the purchasing or procuring of an all-traffic solution shield, which is a speed board. And the chief could give a brief summary on the intent of that particular item.
Yeah, we already have a one device now that we use for traffic studies. These devices will be a little more for public awareness to slow down, to learn how fast they're going. So, like I said, during the work session, I'll hook up with Mr. Gatto either this week or next week and discuss the schedule that we're going to procure these items.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
And next item, again, sanitation rebates, run basically to the end of July 31st. Basically 907 rebates have been issued to date, and come feast or famine or pandemic, the rebates are still going out, and Ms. Eisman is doing a good job with that. So right now we're at 907. I believe we budgeted a little bit over 1,000. So hopefully by July, we'll probably be closing in on that number. Hopefully not surpassing it, but closing in on that number. There were some other items that are sort of a little miscellaneous house cleanings. For tonight, we got the American Pool contract with a fair contract number. One of the hurdles is their first payment, which is dated for May 26th, in the amount of $19,018.96. we would like to obtain, myself and Walter would like to obtain the approval of the board for the release of that first payment, if we possibly could for tonight.
So Joe is asking for a motion from the board to approve $19,018.96 for our first payment to American Pool, which is due on May 26th. Correct, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Made by Mr. Shannon. Second.
I'll second that, Ray. This is Susan.
Thank you. Ms. Cummings has seconded it. Ms. Cummings, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Ray Weldy, I vote yes to that motion to pay American Pool in the amount of $19,018.96 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Joe?
Okay, and one more item. Basically, this is a kind of a request for approval to advertise for that traffic ordinance that was discussed by the chief and the solicitor with regard to Southeast View and West Street Road.
Okay, so Mr. Gaudo has asked for approval to advertise for an ordinance to manage the parking problem that Mr. Kutsaratus brought up at the last meeting that's occurring at Southeast View Avenue and West Street Road. Would anyone like to make the motion to advertise that ordinance?
I would like to make that motion, Ray.
Thank you. Made by Mr. Kutsaratus, a second.
I'll second that, Deb Kaplan.
Seconded by Ms. Kaplan. Thank you. Ms. Cummings?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Ray Weldy, I vote yes. So the motion to advertise a parking ordinance passes with a vote of 5-0. Thank you. Joe, anything else?
Yeah, just more of a topic conversation. I kind of wanted to gauge the board with regard. I did send out. Actually, I didn't. I forgot. Sorry about that. With regard to the COVID and the pandemic, and I apologize to the board that I actually forgot to send this out. What I'm trying to do is to basically establish a COVID clinic where we can get some additional vaccines. I know it's at the county level, and I know it's being dispersed through a myriad of ways. But I would think that the township would want to run a small COVID, clinic basically that we would be able to run hopefully by the end of May or possibly in early June. And I just wanted to gauge the board if they feel that it would be no cost to the township. Basically, we have it's all paid at the federal level. The vendor comes in, does the inoculation. They give us basically a link. We attach it to our website. The website registers the amounts of residents that want to, come in and get the selection of the 3, that COVID vaccines. So I just wanted to, before we proceed with anything, and talking with the vendor, which is basically a derivative of Acme Markets, I just wanted to gauge the board and see their belief or what their opinion is.
But
I
that
think Ed brought something up, didn't you, Ed, at the last meeting about a clinic at Assumption?
Yes. Yes. And we've gotten approval from Father Mike to use the gymnasium, which has plenty of room in it, for that purpose, with Acme personnel injecting the people, and it's all approved from Assumption's perspective. Father Mike has approved it totally.
Yeah, and they're licensed pharmacists that they would be doing the inoculations.
So is this the same event or is this two separate events?
It's the same thing. I just wanted to make sure the board was okay with putting something like that together, because again, it would be on our website, and basically the residents would be registering through our website. And so I just wanted to make sure the board was okay with that as a whole.
Will that be run through the fire marshal's office?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Will that be run through the fire marshal's office?
Well, you can do it that way, yes.
So this is a township, this is just, I just want clarification, that's all.
It's basically to assist the residents and residents that may have difficulty traveling outside the geographic region of Lower Southampton Township. And just trying to make it out there, but it would be a township sponsored event, basically just like other townships or municipalities that have done in Bucks County so far. Some have partnered up with whether it be a Walgreens, a Rite Aid, or whomever, but it is occurring in other municipalities. So I figured, to see the board as a whole, to see if they were okay with that.
Joe,
Well, Joe, I talked to you last year about setting something like this up. So if Assumption is already having it set up, I'm trying to understand, are we having it twice or?
No, this isn't, it's not twice. It's basically at Assumption. It would be held at Assumption because it's a bigger building. We don't have the facilities if we got a large crowd. And I don't know how many people would show up, possibly, maybe 100, maybe 200. I do not know that. So what we want to do is partner up with an entity that's big enough to house it. Right now, we don't have a big enough building to support 150, 250 people coming through the door, with a waiting room for people to sit there for 15, 20 minutes to see if they had any side effects, so to speak. So this particular parcel or this building or facility would probably work ideal for the township.
hey, Joe, can I suggest the board pass a motion authorizing you to take the action necessary to implement the COVID administration program with, the Acme and Assumption, and then you do what's necessary, because, we're not quite sure what has to be done. You'll use the website and you'll do whatever else is necessary to make it work.
Are we able to have something that's township sponsored that we're sponsoring then at a different location?
Well, they're doing, like I said, Middletown did it, I believe, twice so far, and they've done it through Rite Aid. So I do
Where
not
did Middletown
believe.
hold it?
Yep.
Where did Middletown have theirs though?
So we're not doing anything other than putting on the website, I think.
Right,
Okay.
right. It's all with Assumption and Acme. They already have it together, right, Ed?
Well, yeah, as a practical matter, when the Assumption gym was built, it was built and with a lot of issues involved with it, and most of the issues involved were satisfied because Assumption gym was also to be used for township gym, whatever, as long as Assumption approves to it. And Matt was in the process of trying to do something with Assumption with their gym because they don't use it a whole lot anymore.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could provide the Assumption with a rider on that insurance rider too.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
So
Then you
basically,
have to be approved with the county?
They're doing it all over. I mean, they're all regulated at the federal level. So these people have direct lines to the vaccine just like the county has a direct line to the vaccines that are coming out. So these respective pharmacies and Acme has a pharmacy component. They're basically getting the direct line right from the federal government.
So basically, Joe, if I understand this is more of a church and a Rite Aid event that the township is going to help promote and offer some insurance relief.
And registration, right? Or is it walk-in only? Because it's walk-in, right? Aren't they most of them walk-in now? You don't even have to register.
Well,
Right.
when we last left off, it was basically registering. So I think that's the ideal way where you have viable numbers coming through, because you don't want to have, if this is a small event, then at least you got 100 people coming through the door. I'm not just expecting it that you're going to have 500-600 people coming through there. But I think the ideal way and manageable way is probably through a registration.
Well,
Joe, when are you looking to have this? Is by
Well,
the
in
end of
talking
May,
with
middle
the-
of June?
In talking with the one lady that's running the programs for Acme, she had a May 25th or early June. She was going to give me some other additional dates on that. So I just want to kind of keep the motion going with the vaccine aspect, but that's just me, and I just want to make it viable for the residents and easier for the residents.
And I have another question on this. The lines that I've seen, there were MERT officers there. Is that something that we're going to have to need that, Chief?
Well, we would probably, in talking with Ryan too, we would probably have the EMS area be delegated. So we have a representative from EMS be there. God forbid something happened to an individual. So there is some care there if needed. And two, I'm sure in talking with the chief, if a patrol car needed to be assigned in that area, that could possibly happen. I don't think that would be too much of an issue. I don't think you need to have a SWAT team or a MERT team set aside for that, but at least an officer in the area, I would suspect.
Okay, so Joe then or Frank recommends a motion authorizing the manager to work with Mr. Shannon and Assumption to go forth in setting up a COVID vaccination event sometime in the near future. Right, Frank?
yeah,
Okay.
Assumption and the Acme.
And the Acme, I'm sorry. So the motion would be authorize the township manager to work on partnering up with Assumption, Mr. Shannon, and the Acme on setting up a COVID-19 vaccination event sometime in the near future at Assumption. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, Ray.
Thank you. Made by Mr. Kutsaratus, a second.
I'll second Deb Kaplan.
Seconded by Ms. Kaplan. We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Cummings?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes. Thank you.
Ray Weldy? I vote yes. That motion to authorize the manager passes with a vote of 5-0. Joe, anything else?
I would just like to thank the board for that approval, and that's all for tonight, Board Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is supervisors' comments. Ms. Cummings?
Well, I wanted to thank Walter for getting the camp going. I know it was a task for him. He's just been here a few weeks, and I'm sure he's made a lot of parents and a lot of children happy to be able to have the camps up and running this summer. It's a great thing after a long year of no events in the township. So happy to hear that. And also in our board packet, there was the Veterans Advisory Council minutes. And Ray, I was reading through that and I saw in there that you're going to be doing a plaque in honor of Ensign Sarah Mitchell. So when you get to your comments, maybe you could speak on that a little bit. That would be nice to hear.
Sure. Sometime I brought up to the board about a year and a half ago, possibly taking the old district court building and when it was refurbished, doing some type of honorarium and naming it and dedicated it to Sarah Mitchell. And everyone seemed to be in favor of it that night, at least moving forward with it. So I partnered up with the VAC and asked them if they would be willing to help sponsor such an event, and they were thrilled to do it. And then to make sure, I spoke to Betsy Mitchell, Sarah's mom, to make sure that they were okay with it and she's okay with it. So probably at the next meeting, I'm going to have the VAC chairman in on the meeting to ask the board for permission to dedicate that building to Sarah Mitchell and call it something probably similar to the Mitchell Community Center with a formal dedication sometime in probably June. So there'll be more information at the next meeting with the VAC chairman.
Oh, great. Thank you. And I know that there were a few comments about the traffic, so I'm looking forward to the chief's report, maybe next meeting or the meeting after that, with his road studies that he's going to be doing. So everybody have a good evening.
You too, Sue. Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, a couple things. I know one of the hot topics in the neighborhood has been the issue over at the cemetery on gosh, I have off of Bustleton Avenue there. And I'm just curious if there's been any dialogue. I think there was supposed to be a meeting last night with the zoning board. I'm not sure what happened with that.
Well, I can answer that, Kim.
Okay.
And Mike's probably on too, but we've had meetings about that. The engineers met. The solicitor were involved. Mike was involved, and there's issues which have been raised by our engineer. It appears to us that they've been satisfactorily addressed. We're unable to share the information with the community, so the zoning hearing board is planning to meet live, if at all possible, at the next meeting, so that the community can see what the plan is and what's being done. A lot of the issues are long-standing, and the situation's going to be improved over what's currently there. So the feedback from the professionals is good.
Has the conservation department been in contact lately with you guys? I know there was a lot of issues with them the last time I had spoken to them.
Yeah, they still have to get all the required permits. That's as far as I don't know which ones they've applied for and which ones they still have to apply for, but any conditions of approval will be that all necessary permits have to be acquired.
All right. Also, too, at the last meeting, I had brought up about another event that I was trying to put together, and I wanted to let everybody know about the progress. Back in late March, there was a horrific accident where it had involved 4 Neshaminy School District girls, 3 of them from Lower Southampton, and the heroic deeds from a couple of the residents out on Northampton side. I've been fortunate enough to get the okay from both sets of residents to partake in this ceremony, and rightfully so, because they definitely deserve some accolades. Also, too, I was able to reach out to all the parents. They are 100% on board. Stephen Brooks, the chief from the Lower South Fire Department, has been terrific. State Rep Frank Farry, both of those two are going to be meeting with me one day next week over at the department to finalize our vision of this. So it looks like this is going to be a great event. And I also want to give a big thanks to our chief, Ted Krimmel, for also helping out with putting this together. We wouldn't be able to do it without our chief and without our Lower Southampton Police Department. And the last thing that I'd like to bring up is now I believe at the end of May, some of the restrictions are going to be opened back up. I know in the food business, I believe things are going to be, from what I'm hearing, at full capacity again. Do we know when, or we'd like to talk about when possibly opening up our township building again to live meetings and maybe having residents come back in again? I know that's been a sore point with a lot of residents. Maybe Joe could talk about that.
Sure. Basically, there are, I think a lot of towns are actually through the consortium, Bucks County Consortium, are having that same question. And that is still an ongoing issue. Myself personally, I would probably say probably by the end of May, I think would be sufficient to kind of open everything back up. If people again would have to be, wearing masks coming into the building and still keeping socially distanced. But that's a question that's kind of reverberating all throughout the Bucks County Consortium through all the township managers. And I do foresee it coming. It just the question is timing and, when, I'm open to input from the board on when they would like to see it too. And the main thing is that everybody has had an opportunity for the most part to get their vaccines or have the opportunity to have vaccines. And that's kind of what I was looking for, at least to have the opportunity for individuals that were not emergency services related, that they have the opportunity to get inoculated and to protect themselves if need be. So that has recently come down. So I'm open to that, and I'm open to comments.
Well, let's have a little dialogue then, since we're all here. I mean, I would definitely be open to opening the township back up. I know I know the board meetings might be a little. I mean, obviously, I do want the board meetings open with socially distancing. The amount of people would be limited, and how do we limit certain people and other people might want to go? Because let's face it, people love to pack the house for our board meetings. So
Yeah. I think the last time it might have been like we were allowed maybe 8 or 12 in addition to ourselves being there,
right,
to be in those particular chairs and to be 6 feet out.
right.
And the only other thing is that you could kind of, once a person's done bringing up a topic, you could kind of rotate people in and out if need be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm game for whatever the board wishes.
The sooner the better.
There we go.
I agree with that. I hate these things anyway.
Well,
I'm a-
we look in June. I mean, isn't the governor's, presently the governor's emergency declaration as of now over as of May 31st?
I believe that's
Exactly.
what it is, Deb.
So perhaps we could look into June.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And I want to say, I want to thank you, honestly, and sincerely, because upstairs in the administration floor, you've done a heck of a job keeping our employees safe and taking care of them, because I know quite a few people who got kicked from work, and you did an excellent job with the protection of our employees with everything that you put in place. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
that was the number one priority, is keeping our employees safe.
And operating at the same time, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Kim, were you still
So do we?
on or not?
Yeah. No, I'm. It sounds positive. You guys are telling me what I want to hear, and I think what our residents want to hear. So with that said, maybe we can, Joe, have you look into safely opening up the township, as what Debbie said, come next month.
Yes, sir.
Terrific. I know a lot of residents will be happy with that.
But
Great.
with that said, Kim, if we could still keep the convenience of those that, still okay putting their payments in the Dropbox or in the,
Oh, sure.
and keep all that going, because some
Yeah.
residents think that, they like that.
Sure. Some people might like that, and absolutely, if that's what they choose to do, terrific. Great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Ed?
Hey,
Yeah. Well, first I'd like to Walter to be welcomed. He's so far, he's only been here a couple of weeks, and he's already digging in. He wants to go on trips and various things. In addition to that, working the contract with Joe for the 19,000. That's terrific, because it was supposed to have been in April, 120,000 or whatever the number might be. So I think working that out with Joe, obviously, and Walt, that's terrific. We can start moving forward with the programs and the Dolphin Swim Club and so on. I'm Mascaro. I'm very unhappy, I guess, that they've fallen into this low that they're in right at the moment. They were the low bid when this thing went out originally, and because the possibilities of them not being allowed to bid again is even a little bit worse. I know I've been in business. I did business with Philadelphia and all of the departments that they have. So that's really tough. Hopefully they won't be not be able to bid on the future contract. This is going to be a bad situation. The other thing we have is the parade is going on. We've made an approach to all of the participants in the parade, and we're not charging them for being in the parade or advertising their business for the parade. I've probably said before that there's no budget item necessary. We have plenty of money in the bank to run the parade. Obviously, we need the police help. We need public works help. And we're right at this point trying to determine how many of the participants really want to be in the parade. And Miss Connie has already had 6 or 7 parades that are very interested. Now, some of those we have to pay, some we don't. But as a practical matter, it costs us about $25,000 to run the parade. And that's paying the bands and various things. But again, we have the money in the bank, and we've been accumulating that for the last, I don't know, 15, 18 years since I've been doing it, since Carl Simino gave it to me. A bad comment, but there you are. I really appreciate the COVID with Assumption and getting a lot of the seniors closer to home. When they go to church, they know where it is. They know where the gym is. And it makes it easier for them because they're familiar with that whole process with the church and with the gym and plenty of room to moving around. And again, thank you for meetings in-house, Joe. You know how I feel about them.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
I'm very happy that we can get it moving so that we can get people in and out of the building with or without masks or whatever is necessary. And I want to thank you for that. One other thing that I keep banging away every time I get this opportunity is the Feasterville Business Association is having a golf outing at Spring Mill Country Club on July the 12th. So I'll be haunting everybody to see if we can get members to play in that outing. It's a very good thing for the township. And in the last time we had a meeting, had a golf outing, we raised $20,000. And that $20,000, as everybody remembers, is distributed at one of the supervisors' meetings. And it's all to local charities. There's almost nothing that's outside of our area. So hopefully we can do the same thing again. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Ms. Kaplan?
Joe, I have a question for you, and I'm not sure if this question would go to either you or the chief. When we have officers at, like for instance, we had officers at a county-run COVID site. Are we getting reimbursed by the county for that, for the police to be there? And is that up to date or?
Yeah, we're, I think it's coming in through a PEMA grant. It's been trickling in. Matter of fact, Mike Pennington got some correspondence to that. I don't know what the amount was. He actually thinks we made money off of it. So we're working on that. But I get, if you give me till Friday, in the report, I'll let you know for sure. But the money's definitely coming back. We haven't gotten money for last year yet for the civil disturbance stuff. We have gotten back the money for the COVID vaccination sites, and we're done doing that. We're not doing that anymore at a county level.
Right.
It wasn't necessary.
But we're still waiting for money from last year, you said?
Yeah.
Is
So
there,
that's in FEMA and FEMA's hands through the county EMA and the DA's office. Unless a check came in, I didn't see it, but as far as that, we haven't gotten that back yet.
okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Also, the Council of Southeast Pennsylvania provides an all-day recovery support chat group on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. until June 2nd. And there's actually a Zoom link that can be found on the Bucks County Drug and Alcohol Commission webpage. And that's, again, up to June 2nd. And visit our library via Facebook or webpage. You can actually stop in to browse in case residents aren't aware of that to see what's new. You could check out science in the summer. The library hours are Monday through Thursday from 10 to 8, Saturday 9 to 4. And they are still, what still is available is curbside pickup, and that's Monday through Thursdays, 11 to 7. Drivers would need to call the library when they arrive. So some updates on the library. I know some people may not be aware that you can actually go in the building now and browse around. And that's all I have.
Is the library still closed on Fridays, Deb?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Deb.
you're welcome.
Thank you. If the board has no further business, we need a motion to adjourn. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Can I just want to say one thing. I forgot in my comments, I just wanted to wish a happy Nurses Week this week to all our dedicated nurses over the last year. And if you see a nurse, thank them this week and for all the hard work they do. Sorry.
No problem, Sue. Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Kaplan made the motion. A second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Shannon. Ms. Cummings, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kutsaratus?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Ray Weldy, thank you. Ray Weldy, I vote yes. That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
See you. Good night.